All right, folks, France, Italy, England, and a few countries in the Caribbean, including Antigua and Barbuda, protests to mandatory vaccinations are increasing across the world. This morning, we check in with Kadeem Josephs, who is the health editor and news producer at Observer Media in Antigua, to find out what's happening there. Morning, Kadeem. Welcome to Smile Jamaica. It's morning time.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
It is our pleasure. I know a couple of days ago they had some protests. Unfortunately, we had problems in other areas. But what's happening right now? Has that settled down or no?
Well, much of the excitement, the tempers have settled, at least on the surface. This afternoon, we are expected to have another picket at the Prime Minister's office. Leading up to that, yesterday, the communications arm of the police department here in Antigua and Barbuda issued a warning to individuals who are hoping to participate in that picket that only 50 individuals are allowed to congregate at any given spot, any specified spot. They didn't say how large that spot is, but that's their warning that social gatherings are still illegal in Antigua and Barbuda, and such, they're asking the protesters to abide by that rule. So I'm hearing now that they are planning to span the street on Queen Elizabeth Highway near the office of the Prime Minister rather than staying in a specific spot today.
Okay.
Tell me exactly what is the sentiment on the ground, Kadeem. Are they against the vaccine completely or just against the government making it mandatory?
You see, I think for many, we have rushed to paint either side of the vaccine debate as monolithic. And depending on who you speak to, on especially the what we call anti-vax side, they will say, they're not necessarily anti-vax. They have varying concerns. Right now, from what we're hearing from the freedom fighters, they don't like the mandatory aspects of the vaccine at this point in time. And they've gone as far as to also speak out against the mask mandate, the social distancing mandate, and the state of emergency that remains in effect here in Antigua and Barbuda since last, I think, late March. So the list of complaints vary, and they get they go from serious to perhaps what the public health community may call laughable, depending on how you look at it.
Yeah. Tell me about the numbers now as we speak. How many folks have tested positive? How many are positive? And tell me about the numbers.
Okay, so right now we are having a peak in another rise in our COVID cases here in Antigua and Barbuda. We're now at 74 active cases, and this is up from having 0 cases in April, late March, April, May, thereabout. We have been seeing a steady increase now at 74. In terms of vaccination numbers, we have 38,000 plus individuals who have been either have gotten both or just one shot. And for those who have just gotten one shot, we're at about 31,000 individuals thereabout.
And what's the population?
I'm sorry?
What's the population?
Okay, so, that's still a bit controversial here, but we are about 90 to 100,000 people here in Antigua and Barbuda.
100,000 and 74. And this is from the start. This is from the start last March?
Oh, you mean in total, how many cases we have had to date? That's what you're asking?
Yeah.
Yes.
Are you hearing me, Kadeem?
Yes, I think he's probably trying to source the
No, you're a bit muffled, but I'm asking for clarification on exactly what you want. Is it that you're asking for how many cases we have had in total?
In total.
Or just?
No, in total. Yeah.
Okay, I didn't write that one down, but we are about 1,300 thereabout. I can clarify that if I am able to pull it up for you.
Okay, no problem.
Yeah.
And you said right now, 74 active cases right now.
Correct, yes.
What about deaths?
We are at 43.
43.
All right.
Oh yeah, that's 1,372 overall cases.
Yeah.
Okay.
A lot of what hinges on the mandatory vaccine conversation, Kadeem, I guess it varies in each country. Some countries are prioritizing school reopening. Some are prioritizing tourism. I know tourism is big in Antigua as well. What is driving the vaccine concerns in your country from the government's perspective?
Well, it's just that Antigua and Barbuda is majorly dependent on tourism. It's our leading industry, and without that, a lot of people are going to suffer. I remember last year when many of the hotel properties had to close, many people were on the breadline and they were wondering how they'd get their next meal, how they'd be able to support their children who are still having to go to classes or be in Zoom classes. That remains a major issue, the economic fallout because of this pandemic. And I think perhaps that may be where the messaging may need to continue, that, you know, Antigua and Barbuda simply cannot survive having a major surge of COVID-19 because, one, we need the tourist dollars, and two, we don't have the healthcare system and equipment to adequately deal with any major spike, especially if it involves the Delta variant, because we're such a small country and our health systems have been developed around that smallness without foresight for something like this happening. So when the pandemic started, we had to get extra ventilators, we had to get extra oxygen tanks, things like that. So I think those are the two main fears for our government here in Antigua and Barbuda.
Yeah, here in Jamaica, we constantly change our restrictions in terms of curfew hours and movement. What happens in Antigua? Do you have that type of restriction as well?
We have been fortunate to have our numbers, although they fluctuate, to have them stay within means, within manageable parameters. So at the initial stages of the pandemic, we had our curfew at midday, from 5 a.m. to midday. That changed or was relaxed to 6 p.m., then 8 p.m., and we settled at around 11 late last year, and it has continued there to the present day. We don't know what will trigger a cracking down or a tightening of the curfew restrictions. Last week in our post-cabinet press briefing, we asked what would be the barometer, what would be the benchmark. And in previous cases, they have said it's how many cases we have per week. But given the numbers now, and we're not seeing any movement in terms of making things tighter, we're still in limbo. However, we do have a post-cabinet press briefing coming up in just about 45 minutes. So we'll see what the latest is from the government as it relates to our curfew restrictions. And mind you, we do have tourists coming into the country actively right now. So I know the government will not be rushing to adjusting those curfew restrictions, because that means the tourists will not be coming to enjoy the sun, sea, and sand.
Yep. Thanks, Kareem. By the way, are you vaccinated?
Oh, fully vaccinated. I happen to be a medical student as well. So I trust in the vaccines. I trust in the science. I've done the reading myself. So I've been double jabbed. All
right. Thanks for speaking with us, and I hope everything works out. I hope even if you do have the protest, that no one will be hurt or anything like that. Look after yourself. God bless.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm a fan of the show, so it's fun to be on with both of you.
Oh, thank you so much for watching.
Thank you.
And say hi to Sir Viv and Sir Kirtley and all of them for me.
Will do.
All right, take care.
Kareem Joseph, health editor and news producer at Observer Media in Antigua.